morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started with today's budget hearing here at the Desert West Community Center. My name is Mario Paniago. I'm the Deputy City Manager for the City of Phoenix. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. We're first going to start off by introducing, or having our interpreter introduce herself. Elsie?
Now you can hear me. Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elsie Duarte, and I'll be servicing as the interpreter for today's budget meeting. I will now take a moment to introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Elsie Duarte y estaré brindándoles el servicio de interpretación a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana. Favor, háganme saber si necesitan interpretación o audífonos para escuchar la reunión. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we are doing, everybody hear me? We're doing several of these budget hearings throughout the city. We want to make sure that we collect input and hear from the community directly at these budget hearings. And so it's very, very important that we do these. Your input is extremely important to the City of Phoenix, to the City Council, and to our entire budget process. These hearings give us an opportunity to hear directly what the community thinks about our budget and what kind of things might need to be changed. And our process is such that each year our budget typically makes changes because of what we hear at these budget hearings. And so that's a testament to what we do here at the City of Phoenix, that we listen to public input and we respond. And so that's why this is so important. The proposed budget after the budget hearings conclude will be presented to the City Council on May 2nd. The Council will then discuss the budget and hear whatever changes might be made at that point. And then on May the 16th, the Council will come together again on the budget and actually take a vote on the budget itself. For those of you that are here, if you wish to speak, please make sure to fill out a comment card, a speaker card, and submit that to the staff, and we'll make sure that we give you time to speak. I just want to mention most of the people in the room this morning are our city staff, and I want to thank all of you for being here. We do have city staff here from pretty much every department, and it's important that we do that just in case there are questions that come up that they can answer about specific items in the budget related to their department. But it's also important that they're here to hear from you as well. They get to hear from you directly as you give us comments. Before we get to the video on the budget, I'm going to turn it over to Vice Mayor Yasmin Ansari to make some comments as well.
Thank you, Mario. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Phoenix Vice Mayor Yasmin Ansari, the Councilwoman representing District 7. And thank you to those, we are also live today virtually, so thank you to those who are watching and taking part in the budget hearing online. What you'll see in our trial budget today is more resources to keep our communities thriving, to keep people housed, and to keep them safe, and to keep city services like trash pickup, our homelessness services, public safety reliable. So this year we are investing in employee salaries and salary increases more than anything, which is phenomenal. We will be investing, hopefully, $114 million in employee compensation increases, $7.4 million for the continuity of services for our vulnerable populations, such as behavioral health units, Phoenix Cares, and the low-income home energy assistance program, $3.8 million for public safety response, and $1 million specifically for projects that are raised during this public input process. We have been hard at work ensuring that resources reach every corner of District 7, and I'm excited to share, for those who may not know, that this summer we will be opening a new emergency shelter for 280 individuals in our community at 22nd Avenue and Lower Buckeye, so we've been hard at work on that. And this November, you will see a historic $500 million bond program go to voters. And specifically in that, I secured over $113 million for District 7. And $17 million of that will be for the Estrella Civic Space, a park that has been promised for over 20 years to the community at 99th Avenue and Lower Buckeye, $5.7 million for the Cesar Chavez Senior Center, and a new regional pool and splash pads for Maryville, and so much more. So lots of exciting new projects coming up for the City of Phoenix, whether through the trial budget, through the bond program, and so much more. So without further ado, we'll now play a video that will recap everything coming up in this year's budget. Thank you so much.
The City of Phoenix trial budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, proposed by the Phoenix City Manager, is ready for public review and comment. A trial budget is a rough draft of the actual budget, estimating how much money and how it will be used for the next fiscal year. How does Phoenix's annual budget work? The city budget is made up of 3 parts: the general fund, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. The general fund is made up of city sales tax, property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income tax, sales and vehicle license taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund supports many of the services our residents, visitors, and businesses have come to expect in Phoenix, such as libraries, parks, senior and youth programs, police and fire services, and more. Enterprise funds are those city departments that only charge the people who use their services directly, like water and sewer, airlines and passengers at Sky Harbor, and trash and recycling customers. Finally, special revenue funds reserved for specific purposes from grants and voter-approved sales taxes dedicated for parks and preserves, transportation, and public safety. That's how Phoenix gets its money. Now, how do we spend it? Phoenix has a long history of responsible budgeting, ensuring resources are balanced to projected expenses each fiscal year. A top priority of the City Council is to ensure the public can engage in the budget development process every year, giving the community a voice in the future of our city. Residents have multiple opportunities to provide their input ahead of final budget decision-making scheduled for May 16th. Each year, departments look at what it will take to provide services for the upcoming year, and staff forecast what resources will be available to pay for services. The city manager then proposes a trial budget in March each year that identifies how resources should best be allocated to achieve city council and community priorities. Then, we ask for your input at community budget hearings in April each year by using the Fund Phoenix interactive budget tool available in English and Spanish, or by contacting the city directly to ensure the budget reflects the priorities of our residents and city council. After receiving your input, the city council will vote on the budget in May and legally adopt the budget in June each year. State law requires the city's budget to be balanced each year, and this year we are happy to report a projected budget surplus of $134 million. This is thanks to Phoenix's continued strong economy and sound fiscal leadership from the mayor and city council. For fiscal year 2023-24, the proposed general fund trial budget proposes to allocate the surplus primarily to address employee compensation. The city is experiencing significant vacancies across all city departments due to the competitive labor market, and increases are necessary so we can ensure our most valuable asset is paid competitively and positions can be filled with the best talent available to deliver services to you. This year's trial budget also includes $14 million in general fund money proposed to programs and services in city council and community priority areas. Focus Area 1, continuing services for vulnerable populations. To ensure vulnerable populations can continue receiving vital services that are at risk due to expiring or reduced grant funding, and increase resources used to help individuals experiencing homelessness, substance abuse, and behavioral health issues, $7.4 million is proposed to support the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, Victims Advocacy Services, and expand the Behavioral Health Engagement Team's contract. The funds proposed would also expand the Phoenix Cares Outreach Program to increase resources focusing on targeted areas in the city with high concentrations of encampments requiring cleanup, and continue operations next fiscal year at shelters serving 420 individuals per night and approximately 1,300 each year. Focus Area 2, enhancing public safety responsiveness and criminal justice. To help improve emergency response times across the city, $3.5 million is proposed for the Phoenix Fire Department for an additional rescue unit and to fully staff a new fire station located at 19th Avenue and Chandler Boulevard. As part of the Phoenix Police Department's focus on civilianization efforts, new positions are included for civilian investigators and police assistants within the department, along with training and crime scene specialists. Costs will be absorbed in the existing police department operating budget for fiscal year 2023-24. This proposal also includes additional resources for the law department to replace grant funding that will be reduced next fiscal year used to provide services to victims of crime. Focus Area 3, Healthy Neighborhoods and Community Enrichment. To expand the city's efforts toward equity and arts, $125,000 is proposed to increase funding for the Community Arts Grants Program that supports renters at Herberger Theater Center and other local venues. Also, a new project manager position to help manage and coordinate the Office of Arts and Culture's model for involving artists in designing and building a better city. The cost for this position will be paid for with existing capital project funds. A proposed $571,000 for the Neighborhood Services Department would add funding to expand the gated alley program, providing resources to install approximately 77 new gated alley segments each year, and restore 2 grant-funded neighborhood inspector positions to the general fund, which will free up grant resources used to serve low and moderate income residents. In an effort to increase park security and advance the city's climate action plan, $2 million is proposed for the Parks and Recreation Department to hire 14 park rangers and 1 park manager to create 2 urban park ranger teams that will work overnight. The addition of an overnight third shift will provide coverage 24 hours per day, 7 days a week at city parks. The proposed funds will also add more staff to expand tree planting and shade canopy efforts citywide and add a new volunteer coordinator to assist in the coordination of volunteer efforts throughout city parks. Non-general fund supplementals total $1.4 million. Due to growth and security needs at the airport, $917,000 is proposed for 2 new access agents for badging services and to add vehicles needed for the Airport Bureau. $488,000 is proposed to support technology and streamlining of services provided by the Planning and Development Department, including managing the Shape Phoenix permitting system, enhanced electronic plan review, and staff to support increased human resource activity. In addition, $1 million is reserved for possible changes to the trial budget based on resident feedback on the budget, and $5 million will go to the General Fund Contingency or Rainy Day Fund to ensure resources are available in the event of unexpected economic or financial events. This has been just a taste of what you will find in the 2023-24 City of Phoenix proposed trial budget. More information on the proposed budget is available at our website, Phoenix.gov/budget. We encourage you to provide your input using Fund PHX, an interactive budget tool available in English and Spanish that lets you provide direct feedback on the proposed fiscal year 2023-24 trial budget additions. We hope that you'll review additional details in the budget tabloid available at each budget hearing in English and Spanish and online at Phoenix.gov/budget. Please share your feedback in whatever way works best for you at one of the community budget hearings or by email at budget.research@phoenix.gov. You can comment on the city's social media pages at City of Phoenix AZ on Facebook or on Twitter using hashtag PHXBudget, or call us at 602-262-4800. All resident feedback will be shared with the City Council so they may consider it before making final budget decisions. The City Manager will present his proposed budget for 2023-2024 to the Phoenix City Council on May 2nd, 2023. The Council's budget decision will take place on May 16th. 2023. Thank you for being a part of this important process. We look forward to hearing your ideas for this year's trial budget and the future of Phoenix. And now to an informational update on the City Council approved 2023 General Obligation Bond Program. In December, the City Council approved a General Obligation Bond Program to advance to the voters in the upcoming November 7th election. General obligation bonds, also known as GO bonds, provide a mechanism for the city to fund the construction and rehabilitation of city facilities and infrastructure such as parks, libraries, fire stations, police precincts, community centers, streets and storm drains, and arts facilities. A GO bond program requires voter approval and cannot be used to fund operating costs like staff salaries or to fund assets in which the city has no legal interest. Phoenix voters have approved 12 GO bond programs since 1957, totaling $4.6 billion, with the last GO bond program approved by voters in 2006. This 17-year gap is the longest in the city's bond program history and has resulted in a significant amount of unfunded capital needs. In 2022, Phoenix City Council appointed a Citizens GO Bond Committee to identify the highest priority unfunded capital needs, totaling $500 million. In the fall, committee members met to review capital needs identified by city departments and heard proposals and input from the public. After 3 months of committee deliberation and extensive public input, the committee recommended a proposed $500 million GO bond program to Phoenix City Council. The City Council approved GO bond programs include projects in the areas of arts and culture, economic development and education, environment and sustainability, housing, human services and homelessness, neighborhoods and city services, parks and recreation, public safety, and streets and storm drainage. The program includes projects such as a new Latino cultural center, acquiring land for Rio Reimagined, affordable housing property preservation, a new senior and recreation center, new regional pools, and improvements to existing community centers and park facilities, funding for heat resiliency projects, Vision Zero roadway safety initiatives, new and expanded library branches, and new and renovated fire stations throughout the city to improve response times. The full list of projects and programs is available on the city's website at Phoenix.gov/bond. Voters will decide the outcome of the City Council approved GO bond program during a November 7th, 2023 bond election. Election materials, including an informational pamphlet with more detail about the bond program, will be mailed to all voters in the fall ahead of the election.
All right, so just real quick before we get to the most important part of this, which is hearing from you, I did fail this morning to introduce Amber Williamson, our Budget and Research Director, so sorry about that, Amber. Amber does a great job managing the city budget, and just wanted to make sure. And so if you came in after my initial comments, if you want to speak, just make sure to submit a speaker card to the staff over to my right, and we'll make sure you get a chance to speak. And with that, I'll hand it over to Vice Mayor.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get started with public comment, and I'm going to read off names in the order that they were handed to me. So if you could, if you're speaking, please come up to the podium. First speaker is Rebecca Pereira.
Good morning, thank you. I'm Rebecca Pereira and I reside in Levine in District 7, and I really do appreciate everyone taking the time to set up these budget hearings to hear from us. I'd like to start off with a few things that I've noticed in the budget that I really like, and then I'll add one thing I'm hoping that the city will add. I think the budget starts off strong, dedicating funding for employee compensation. Our city's growing, but FTE per capita seems to remain flat. So I think our city employees, our public employees are our biggest asset. So I hope that this helps with retention and recruitment and speeds up some of the services like response times for non-emergency calls, resolving blight, timeliness and fixing potholes, and the permitting process. I support the increase for the funding for homeless services outreach and community engagement positions. I think that there's been a really good effort in Levine on the corner of 51st Avenue and Baseline to coordinate the coordination of departments, including police and social services, and I think it's working to address those issues, and I hope that the funding can do that project in other areas of the city. I like the parks volunteer coordinator position. I think this is a great idea, and the community groups would be able to activate local parks similar to our other community groups like our block watches and our friends at the library. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that coordinator can do to increase park activation. I really like seeing the funding for the third shift for the park rangers, and I strongly prefer this over the third-party security that the city has been piloting. I'm hoping that one of the focuses could be on ATV issues on the Levine Area Conveyance Channel, which is a linear park in Levine. We call it the LACC. We've been plagued with ATV issues. It becomes an issue, and it's usually after hours when the park rangers are currently not on site. It's causing issues and safety issues for pedestrians. It's causing erosion issues and broken irrigation. So I hope that that could be a focus. But I also noticed that I'm not sure there's a way to contact the third party or the third shift park rangers after hours. So I hope that that could be considered so that there's a way for the public to call instead of calling non-emergency to get park rangers out when we see those ATVs riding on our conveyance channel. I did want to take a moment to thank Vice Mayor Ansari and the D7 team for seeing the potential in the conveyance channel and supporting the grassroots efforts for the Levine community. I'm really looking forward to seeing what future improvements that happen on the conveyance channel to support active transportation, recreation, and economic development. With that, there is one thing I would like to see added to the budget. I would really like to see the development and operations of the Rogers Ranch Park in Levine. I'd like to see it added in the 5-year CIP. This is a 10-acre park that's sat vacant as a dust bowl for the last 20 years. It sits right on the conveyance channel, and with us growing exponentially out in Levine and in the west parts of Estrella, I don't want to see this park forgotten in preference for parks in other areas. So I know that a couple years ago, some parks were added to the budget, and it's taken over 2 years to get those started and broken ground. I'd really like to see the Rogers Ranch Park added so we could get started and not see those sort of delays for this empty vacant lot. With that, thank you so much, and thank you all.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Craig Triple.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Ansari and Deputy City Manager and Budget Director. I appreciate this opportunity. These meetings are wonderful for me I attend most of them, and I hear a lot about what's going on. I'm here to talk very briefly about Phoenix Day. Phoenix Day Early Childhood Center we're asking for $250,000. Pandemic nailed us down to 40 kids. We made a plan. We were running $1 million deficit. We made a plan. The plan was to get us up to 80 kids by today. We've done that and then some. Get up to 100 by June and get to 120 by next year. At which point we'll be self-sustaining, and I won't be standing here next year. I won't be anyway. But anyway, the thing I really want to talk about is a new leaf and homeless stuff. Let's get real. We absolutely know we've got to solve the problem of homelessness, and we just know. I mean, it's one of those sort of absolutes that we have to do. And in order to do that, we've got to really your homeless staff, by the way, the people in the manager's office are great. I can say some things that they might not be able to say. We've got to reinvent shelter. If we're gonna succeed, we know that we must clean up the zone downtown. We know that whether the court tells us to or not. We're going to have to. Number two, we've got other neighborhood problems, people camping in neighborhoods, alleys, and that sort of thing. So we have to reinvent shelter, and we have to create a dignified environment that people want to be in. And in that shelter, we need to be able to get people into behavioral health services. A New Leaf provides domestic violence, behavioral health. We've got a partner in Taros right now that provides general health, job training. We do the whole continuum, and we are doing it right now. And I just want to say that I know that others have tried to do this, but we must solve this problem, and we are doing the things already that need to be done. We've got the second largest single men's shelter in the valley, and between the county, the state, and the cities, and I know there's dynamic tension between the state and the county and the city in terms of who, and other cities, in terms of who's going to pay for this. I know that that's there, and we have to figure that out, but in the end, we're going to do it by building a better mousetrap, by building a better shelter, by reinventing shelter, so that it's the shelter of the next decade as opposed to the last 30 years, because that's really what we're doing right now. A basketball arena with bunk beds where people stay alive, and we keep them alive till the next morning. That's not good enough, and that's not going to solve the big homeless problem that we've got. It's going to take, and I hate to lay out all the resources it's going to take, but we know we must solve this problem. I mean, that's the thing which everybody knows, because it's bad for the neighborhoods, it's bad for the individual who's homeless, and it's bad for the city. And we know this. And I really appreciate this opportunity. I go on forever about homeless policy, and I appreciate very much. But again, I want to emphasize, well, number one, we need money for Phoenix Day, but number two, you've heard my homeless opinions, and it's going to require more shelter beds, reinventing shelter. Housing, yes, housing is a big part of the problem, but we can't wait a decade. And that's what it's going to take for the market, for the legislature to do something about rental rules and eviction rules, on and on and on. It's going to take a decade, and we can't afford to wait a decade. The problem will get that much worse in that period of time. So anyway, that's what I have to say. Thank you so much for your time, Vice Mayor, and I will look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Next, I will invite Sam.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to say hello. I represent MC Cash neighborhood, which is located off of 35th Avenue and Broadway. We are a lost neighborhood. The reason why I'm standing up here today is I would love for some of the budget to come to our neighborhood for we can have safer alleys for the children to walk in. Currently, our children have to walk down the street up to a mile to get to their school in the middle of the street. We all know we are going to work at that time of morning. Now, I'm usually up walking around with these kids because we have a lot of problems with dogs and drug homes, drug stash houses in our neighborhood. And I just want to make sure that the kids get to school on time and safe. Since 2015, we've been asking the city of Phoenix to help us open up an alley to put lights on, solar lights for the kids can see in the morning, during the winter, fencing to help children walk in the mornings, along with their parents. Also, this particular alley goes to the church right there, San Martin de Porres. Now the elderly have to walk the streets, which usually takes a quarter mile. Now they're up to almost 3/4 of a mile to walk to church on Sunday. Another question, I'm a retired city employee, and I was wondering if the city of Phoenix is going to put some more effort to help retirees coming up with insurance. Insurance is ridiculous. It is way too much money for an employee who does not get a very large pension or a monthly. Some of us are borderline. But I'd really like to see if they can help us out more by helping bring down insurance, cost of medication. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Blanca.
Good morning. My name is Blanca Barca, pero le voy a hablar en español para que me entiendan mejor.
Good morning, my name is Blanca Abarca, but I'm going to speak to you in Spanish.
Okay. Thank you. Soy del sur de Phoenix, del Distrito 7.
I'm from South Phoenix, from District 7.
Y tengo más de 25 años viviendo en mi comunidad.
And I've been living in my community for the last 25 years.
Y veo lamentablemente que mi comunidad latina a veces no es bien recibida.
And what I've noticed is that unfortunately my Latino community is not well received.
¿Por qué? Porque nos piden que es muy importante la comunicación y la voz de la comunidad para poder expresar lo que sienten, lo que viven, cómo se ven en sus comunidades.
Because here on your literature, you're saying that it's important to hear the voice of the people, how they live. ¿Cómo viven?
Sí. ¿Por qué? Porque cuando ponemos que solamente las audiencias públicas solamente son una o dos audiencias en bilingüe y que lo demás son en inglés, ¿qué está pasando?
And what I notice is that these public hearings, we usually only have 2 that are available bilingual and the rest are not. So I ask myself, what is happening?
Es importante que todos seamos escuchados.
It's important that we are all heard.
Todas las audiencias públicas que como representantes de cada distrito vienen, tienen que ser bilingües.
All the hearings that we come to, all the leaders, representatives should be bilingual.
Y como comunidad latina que genera ingresos económicos a este país, nosotros tenemos que trabajar. ¿Y por qué hacen las audiencias públicas en las mañanas?
And we, the Latin community that contribute to the workforce of this country, why are they making these for us? Knowing this, why are they making the meetings so early in the morning?
Creo que cuando empecemos a mejorar y que todo sea abierto a todos, al público, empezaremos a dar un primer paso y vamos a empezar a mejorar la comunidad donde vivimos.
I think that once we open it up more to the community, it will make it better to start making the first steps towards making progress in our communities.
Al igual que mis compañeros que estamos aquí, venimos, ¿por qué? Porque nuestra experiencia de vivir en las comunidades no está bien.
And just like myself, my colleagues and I that are here, we're here to express that the situation in our communities are not good.
Tenemos drogas, prostitución.
We have drugs,
Y violencia
prostitution,
que a veces la policía no nos ayuda por experiencia propia.
and there's violence issues that sometimes the police can't even help us with, and I'm speaking from my own experience.
Y algo que me llama mucho la atención de este presupuesto que están presentando,
And something that really calls my attention from this budget that you're proposing,
que dicen que no vienen de los impuestos,
that you're saying that it's not coming from taxes.
pero yo les recuerdo que dentro del sur de Phoenix está la construcción del tren ligero.
But I'm just reminding you that in the part of the construction projects of the city of Phoenix is the railway.
Hubo una propuesta de ley que votaron
It was a vote of a legislation
que nosotros, la comunidad, vamos a pagar por ese presupuesto de la construcción del tren ligero.
it was proposed that with our tax dollars they were going to utilize to pay for the light rail.
Donde se nos iba a quitar de nuestros impuestos para nosotros pagarlo.
That was going to come out of our taxes to pay for that project.
Tengo 25 años viviendo en mi comunidad y nunca me han cambiado la luz de la calle donde vivo.
I've been living in my community for 25 years, and and throughout that time they haven't even taken the time to change the light or fix the light fixture or street light in front of my house.
Dentro de esa propuesta de ley de la construcción del tren ligero, se iba a acordar por la votación de los votantes que cuando iba a ser la construcción del tren ligero, iban a la vez mejorar alrededor para que todo fuera cambiando en la comunidad.
And part of that proposal for the light rail included some fixtures or some renovations that were going to be done around that in the community.
Y si no lo saben, chequen ahí las votaciones 2016-2018 que vamos a pagar durante 35 años, una deuda que yo voy a generar a mi hija para que siga continuando pagando esa construcción del tren ligero.
And if you check on this proposal for the year 2016-2018, it stated that we were going to be paying taxes, which in 35 years, this means that I will have generated a debt that my daughter will continue to pay for.
Entonces, ese presupuesto es muy poco.
So that budget is not enough.
Necesitamos más
We need more
para nuestros jóvenes.
for our youth.
Estoy haciendo un trabajo que muchos de nosotros que nos tendrían que apoyar, tendríamos que trabajarlo.
And we are doing a job that the people that should be supporting us, we're doing that on their behalf.
Llevo un grupo de folclore de hace 10 años.
I've been, I'm part of a group, a teaching of folklore for, ¿cuántos años, perdón?
10 años,
10 years.
donde involucramos a los jóvenes a tener actividades sanas, recreativas, saludables y en beneficio de ellos mismos.
Where we bring activities that are healthy and constructive for the youth.
¿Por qué? Porque si ellos es el futuro, tenemos que mejorar, tenemos que tener programas, centros recreativos, actividades para poder implementarlos en los jóvenes, para que no caigan en las drogas, para que no haya delincuencia y para que la policía no abuse de esa mentalidad que ellos tienen.
So that, because I think it's important to invest in our youth so that in the future they don't fall into doing crimes and then end up at the hands of the police for not doing right.
Tenemos que tener Wi-Fi gratis,
We also need free Wi-Fi,
transporte gratis,
free transportation.
es necesario.
It is necessary.
La pandemia nos enseñó que necesitamos quedarnos en casa y nuestros jóvenes necesitan tener esa conexión para poder avanzar en sus estudios.
What we learned through the pandemic as our youth had to stay home, we encountered this barrier with the internet service, and we understand now how important it is to have that available so that they can get ahead in their education.
Antes de la construcción del tren ligero nos fueron igual a decir qué queríamos opinar con todos esos impuestos que iba a generar y que nosotros íbamos a pagar.
So before, when they came out to talk to us about the budget proposal for the light rail, they told us all these different things that we were going to get, and we were asked to vote for that.
En mi área yo pedí un hospital.
And they asked for us what are some of the things that we needed, and in our area we need a hospital.
Necesitamos un hospital. Necesitamos una estación de bomberos.
We need a fire station as well.
Y saben que en el área donde vivo, en el sur de Phoenix,
And in the area where I live, which is South Phoenix,
nos están, ¿cómo decir? Que nos están diciendo, vende tu casa, y mucha gente se están saliendo. ¿Por qué? Porque están gentrificando y haciendo departamentos más grandes.
so what's happening is that they're encouraging us to move out, and in order for them to start constructing these new apartments, and as a result, we are being gentrified.
En el área donde yo vivo, en el sur de Phoenix, hay espacios para hacer verdes, para hacer parques, y ¿qué es lo que están haciendo? Más edificios departamentales, porque la gente viene más, genera más ingresos, más impuestos, entonces hay más dinero.
And in South Phoenix, we have large lots of land that could be used for parks, but instead they're using them for these new apartment buildings that, of course, will bring more people and will generate more income.
Nosotros nos dimos a la tarea como comunidad, nos estamos preparando.
So as a community, we took it upon ourselves to get prepared.
Nos estamos organizando
We're getting organized.
y presentaremos un presupuesto de nosotros mismos, de la comunidad, del pueblo, que ellos mismos lo pidieron.
And we will propose a budget based on the direct needs of the people.
Llevo más de 25 jóvenes tratando de enseñarles una actividad para que sean más prósperos en la comunidad donde viven.
I've been trying to teach 20 to 25 youth in our community with with activities that will help them be better off in life.
Pero si van a hacer ese presupuesto, que sea abierto al público y que cada voz cuente, porque es importante que haya ese respeto a la comunidad.
But so if they're going to continue with, if you're going to continue with these budget meetings, I suggest that they be open to all and that everybody is listened to with respect and also with equality for everyone.
Y estoy aquí porque pago impuestos, es mi dinero.
And I'm here because I pay taxes. It's my money.
Mucha gente paga impuestos, es su dinero.
A lot of people pay taxes. It's
Y no
their
es
money.
escuchada.
And they're not being heard.
Y esperamos que las siguientes audiencias sean parte de la comunidad y que sean bilingües.
And we hope that in the next budget hearings are also for the whole community and that they're also bilingual.
Y nosotros como Poder en Acción les vamos a presentar el presupuesto que la propia comunidad realizó.
And through our group Poder en Acción, we will present you with a budget that is targeted on the identified needs that are specific to the people.
Gracias por la oportunidad y que todos tengan buen día.
Thank you for the opportunity and everyone have a great day.
Thank you so much. Next speaker is Isabel Garcia.
Hi, good morning. My name is Isabel. I live in District 7. I was born and raised in South Phoenix, and I still live there. Today, I'm also here on behalf of Poder in Action with Our Pueblo's budget campaign. Our Pueblo's budget campaign is rooted in the value that healthy communities are safe communities. For decades, the city of Phoenix has strategically neglected Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities in West and South Phoenix, where essential resources such as housing, healthcare, food, transportation, employment opportunities, recreation programs, and just basic public infrastructure is lacking or dilapidated. Every year, the city chooses to place more police in our neighborhoods instead of sufficiently investing in these basic resources and services. The city deliberately chooses every year violence and harm toward people of color in the form of increased policing instead of prioritizing the health and prioritizing prevention and life-affirming programs that will truly and sustainably promote safety. That is why Poder in Action talked to thousands of people who are directly impacted by the strategic neglect, and we created a Pueblo's budget, like my friend Blanca mentioned. And I have a couple of copies to share with you. So we did talk to thousands of people over the course of 4 years. This budget was 4 years in the making, and there are 6 categories that the budget is broken into, and each category has multiple investments. And it addresses some of the things that we have already heard today, like homelessness and housing, street and alleyway and sidewalk maintenance, cleanup, fixing, and this is, we talked to people who are directly impacted by a lack of services in West and South Phoenix. So this budget, as you will see, is $465 million dollars of investments that the city can fund to ensure that Black, Indigenous, and people of color in Phoenix live long, healthy, joyful, and in turn, safe lives. The Pueblo's budget was written by Phoenix community members for community members. And today we are here to demand that the city, instead of allocating more money to police, use the $134 million surplus to invest in the following 5 specific investments from our Pueblo's budget. So 1, expand the free public Wi-Fi network to increase coverage in BIPOC neighborhoods. 2, make sure every home in Phoenix has access to water and is safe from extreme heat by expanding the city's existing home weatherization program. 3, increase the number of public restrooms in public spaces and leave them open 24 hours a day throughout the city. 4, make public transit free for everyone. And 5, repair broken playground equipment, especially at Sueño Park. I think Sueño Park is in District 5, but it is in like desperate need of repair. So again, instead of millions of dollars for police pay, raises, and bonuses, you have this great opportunity to immediately fund these 5 things from the Pueblo's budget that will make our neighborhoods healthier and safer. I also want to piggyback off of Blanca's comment around the time of this meeting. It's really difficult for parents of young children to make it to a meeting at 8:30 a.m. It's school drop-off time at that time, and as I can see here, it doesn't look like there's a lot of community members present. It looks like it's mostly city and institutional folks, and if you are a community, if you can raise your hand, but there we go, yeah. So I had to do logistical gymnastics to get here today, and I still got here late. So I would strongly suggest that the city schedule these meetings at a time that's not during school drop-off or school pickup. So that is like between 10 and 1 p.m. or after school and after work hours. Like yesterday, we had the bilingual citywide budget hearing, and we had great turnout from community. It started at 6 p.m., and even though folks were still coming in a little bit late, you know, people were still able to sign up to speak, and the meeting, I think, ended really late. I had to leave early, but I think it ended at like at 9. But there was like great public turnout, and that's what these meetings are for, right? So yeah, 8:30 is really hard to get here, especially for parents who need to drop off their kids at school or have childcare arrangements. So yeah, I just wanted to add that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Jennifer Rouse.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Mr. Paniagua, and Ms. Williamson for this opportunity. And I'm sorry, I am one of those people who is late because I have a daughter who does not feel safe taking the school bus. So I had to take her to school, rush home, and get my son, who will be addressing a superintendent today about his youth program. I didn't know how I was going to start this. I prepared nothing to speak other than years ago I said, you reap what you sow. You wonder why we need more police? The city cut funding for youth services. Our parks in District 7 were not built. Rebecca's right in saying we need money for Rogers Ranch Park. However, I don't think it's something that's going to fit on a budget. I do believe this is something that's going to need to be addressed by the next bond, and it does need to be addressed. But it's not just Rogers Ranch, and we need to stop thinking of ourselves in buckets of the areas just where we live in and see it citywide, because there are numerous parks up in our sister village of Estrella that years ago when I was helping to start a block watch up there, they thought they were part of Levine. The Estrella Village area needs to know, they need to know their identity. They're not, they may have a Tolleson address as I have a Levine address, but we are Phoenix. We've been left behind. And I'm very excited that our Vice Mayor is going to, and she intends to run for Congress. However, for 14 years, we've been ignored. I mean, I'm shaking, we have been ignored. Our needs have been ignored, our community has been ignored, and we have spoken up. I've spoken in the past about the parks. I focused just on my own neighborhood until I saw beyond myself. When you took us on the infrastructure tour, I spoke about the Levine Area Conveyance Channel, but I had just seen South Phoenix. I had seen other areas that may be of a higher need. But our conveyance channel does need to be beautified. We need trees. We need a place, if it was intended to be a path through Levine, it needs to be a place where people can take their kids, take their families, take themselves on a walk. We were told we were going to have an entertainment district. We're not. We're going to have a movie theater. But a lot of what we thought was going to happen just is not coming to fruition. But we do need safe places to live, to bike, to talk to others, to connect. And right now, we're not seeing that. Not in Levine. I don't know that we see it as much in South Phoenix. We don't see it as, we do see it, and I feel it in Maryville, but it's more you've got to know the neighborhood a lot more. MC Cash neighborhood, yes, they need gated alleys. They may not have a block watch to sponsor them. There needs to be a way to gate those alleys. There was just a cleanup there. I think it's the Sky Harbor Coalition was just there. And I wish I could have been there to see that, because it is a beautiful thing, but that neighborhood needs more attention from the city. And Vice Mayor, before you leave, and I do hope our next council person is in the room right now, but I do believe we need somebody to that will continue to see the entire district. Downtown is gorgeous, but the rest of us do matter. I do want to say also, it's great that there was a community-wide bilingual budget hearing, but it was in Maryville. And for many parts of our district, bus service is not as frequent. It doesn't reach all the corners of our district yet. I know that is coming, but do keep in mind there are people that have voices that may not have the transportation to these. I don't see why all of these budget hearings can't be advertised as being bilingual. I also don't understand why they can't be done in a hybrid fashion, so that if somebody's sitting at home who might have time this morning and not any other time can log in through WebEx or call in and not just have you hear them, but have everyone else in their community hear that they're also advocating for their neighborhoods. I do want to also say I am happy to see that the Cesar Chavez Community Center opened. I was ecstatic because I hope I wasn't the only one who brought up needing a room for, specifically for kids that maybe on the autism spectrum or have sensory processing, I hate to say disorder, but it's something that affects my family and affected families of other kids in my daughter's class. Just basically sensory friendly. It's not big, but it will serve the purpose. And for the families that I accompanied in there the day that the community center opened, it meant a lot. I do ask, and because I've, during the bond process, heard from so many people that wanted to dismiss ADA upgrades or accommodations around the city, I was ashamed of our city, that so many people do not see the need for this city to be inclusive of everyone. So I don't know how many people, again, this goes back to having a virtual option in all these budget hearings, but for someone who it will be a huge undertaking to get a ride, to get here, just to get in the front door, think of them as well. I do need to say thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilman Garcia, were integral to listening to us. I live near 51st Avenue and Baseline, and for many who wanted to make it sound like the problem was new, it was not. This is not new. We have had problems. My neighborhood had encampments along our community wall, and we were not heard. We were a nuisance, but not to you. And you listened. And Councilman Garcia humanized them, as did you, but he had to have a talk with me. We needed to see the bigger picture. And when the officers, who we got more than our fair share of the officers on this project, because this has been a problem for as long as I've lived in Rogers Ranch. So we're talking at least 15 years. Before fentanyl, it was meth. There was alcohol abuse. I mean, we're getting the answers, we're getting the help that we need. And you don't want to say, police are not the only response, but they do need to be part of the response. We do need more officers. And when you look at the workload that our officers have, specifically our community action officer, who's not here right now, but he's got a couple extra jobs because he's also the liquor detective. They're having to cut back the people that actually communicate with us, the community members. Our community action officers got cut in half, it feels like, again. And many of you don't know, we're part of like a double precinct. It's Maryville and Estrella Mountain together as one. We will eventually need our precinct back because we're growing. But we do need more officers because, in part, I believe, it comes back to you reap what you sow. They cut funding for youth services many years ago, or youth programming. And now what do we have? We've got youth that they're just now getting the community center. I joked that my son, by the time the community center opened, my grandkids would be going there. And that's essentially, we're very close to that. We need to have more for our kids, for people of all ages, but for where they can learn to be leaders, to look out for one another, to come together and encourage each other to make the right choices. But we need to also appreciate the officers that we have. We could probably use at least 1,000 more to keep up with other cities, to make sure that people are not waiting a long time for their calls for service to be answered. And unfortunately, because it's what we reap, what we sow. This is where we are. And we do need more officers because, unfortunately, a lot of people don't appreciate what they do. Those of us that say we do appreciate our officers are just loading more work on them. They compare them to any other city in the valley, and they're doing a lot more for a heck of a lot less. So, and one final thought, too, is with all the city employees, you guys do a lot. We appreciate you. I do believe we need more full-time employees across the board to help work and make this a better city. So thank you.
Thank you. I also do want to note that we do have a virtual budget hearing tonight, so just please let any friends and family know who may want to join. Next speaker is Annie Eldon.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Ansari for being the leader in the council members to request a virtual budget hearing. I helped to lead community members to ask for this, and we're so thankful that we have an option tonight. So thank you so much, Vice Mayor Ansari. My name is Annie Eldon. I am a board member for Phoenix Spokespeople, a bicycle nonprofit here in Phoenix. And I am here to ask for a few things that are bike related and also just general community related. First of all, I'd like to ask that there allocate at least $1 million in funding for protected bike lanes on 3rd Street from Lincoln to Roosevelt Street. Currently, there are 2 projects to go from Lincoln to Washington and then from Washington to Roosevelt. And these should really be one project because we need to connect all the bike lanes as soon as possible. And this is especially important because we received a huge grant from the United States Department of Transportation to build the 3rd Street Rio Salado Bridge. And if we have this beautiful bridge that is not connected to anything, that would look really poorly on the city of Phoenix. So let's get it connected to the rest of the city and show the United States Department of Transportation that we were worthy of that award. I also asked the City of Phoenix Police Department create a cost recovery enforcement staffer and vehicle to look for and ticket any cars that are parked illegally in bike lanes. The city has been fantastic at building a lot of new bike lanes over the past few years, but if cars are parked in them, they're pretty much useless for us, and they force bicyclists to go out into the traffic, and this ultimately makes traffic much more dangerous for both car drivers and bicyclists, because car drivers are not expecting bicyclists to be there. And so if we could have some way to keep cars from parking in the bike lanes, that would be amazing. And then lastly, I asked the City of Phoenix implement a permanent program for either virtual or hybrid community budget hearings and city meetings in general. I and a few others here were able to make it here today. I had to take time off work to come, and I'm sure other people have had to do similar things to get here. And while I was fortunate to make it, a lot of people were not. As the previous speaker said, whether it's due to disabilities, whether it's due to transportation, barriers, childcare, etc. There are so many reasons that people could not make it to in-person budget hearings. So I really request that all community budget hearings and city meetings in general are virtual or hybrid, because there is something very valuable and it really dignifies the people speaking to be able to speak directly to their council member or to the city staff person in real time. And so I really hope that will continue to happen. And again, thank you so much for supporting the virtual budget hearing tonight, 5:30 p.m. I plan to speak. I hope others will too. Thank you so much to you all for your hard work for the great city of Phoenix, and I look forward to working with you more.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Lisa Perez.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Vice Mayor Mario Ever, for being here today. I think being the last speaker, I think is pretty obvious. What we heard is in every single community within every neighborhood, we all have different needs and wants. It's very simple. I know what I want. I live in southwestern Phoenix, close to Tolleson, and there are things we don't have very much infrastructure at all. It's houses, and that's about it. No sit-down restaurants, all fast food. So my neighbors constantly complain about that. We have no city services, no community centers. We have a couple of parks, and thanks to the city of Phoenix in the process, we do have a couple of parks coming, and for the Go Bond process, we do have our big regional park coming. Having said that, we don't want to get greedy too. We all need stuff in our neighborhoods. It's very important. I do want to say that I support this budget. I especially support the compensation going to employees. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of good and a lot of bad. We lost some people because they could have a lot more flexible schedules going to the private sector, and I understand that. So I think that one is number one. Number two, I'm going to just piggyback a little bit on the one that was talking about bikes, and that is infrastructure. We did see the good and the bad of the pandemic, and the good was we had the opportunity of participating still with the city of Phoenix through hybrid and virtual processes, and that needs to not go away. We need to find, and if it's infrastructure, if it's money, we need to figure out how to do that. It allowed more people to participate. People that probably never participated in a meeting before had the opportunity to speak their mind at a council meeting. I know in years past we've had meetings where people wanted the city to change the city council meetings, which, you know, it's a little hard to do. It's kind of a moving beast, and we all kind of get that. But this gave them the opportunity. They could be anywhere. I was in Palm Springs when I had to call in because I was at a family reunion. Was able to call in, though, and give my 2 cents on the subject. So the infrastructure is super important, and I think we can't lose that. As well as there's a couple of other programmatic things I can't tell you how many times I have called into the city where they're like, our system really can't do that. So the aging infrastructure is important because all the stuff that we can't get done unless we have a system to support it. I do want to say that I'm always going to support our police. In my neighborhood, I think our neighborhood is more upset when they don't see police officers than when they do. And we are comprised of a black and brown community as well as everybody else. We're a very diverse community where I live. 85% Hispanic in my area. We're a Title I school area. I also serve on the school board in my area. So it's very important for us to make sure that we support our police officers because they're there for us and we want to be there for them. And finally, I would encourage everybody here not to just wait until the budget meetings. I'm a neighborhood activist, and I'm constantly calling the city of Phoenix. I'm sure they got my name on a dart wall somewhere. Constantly just talk to them. Ask them about your problems, because once the budget process is kind of like a train that's leaving a station, and we want to get on board with it, but use the time all year round to call your council person, to call your neighborhood specialist, to call the fabulous directors that we have in the city of Phoenix, and tell them your problem. They're going to give you the best route to help get that done. And I think that's important for all of us to recognize so that we're not crammed into just a couple of meetings. I too was disappointed that we went down from 11 pre-pandemic. We had 30 budget meetings. So it was kind of a big difference for people to be able to make the time to get out here. I did get here a little late because I had to send my kid off too, but we do what we need to do to get things done. But use your time all year round and make sure that your voice is heard, not just for the very small portion of the budget hearings, but year round, so that you're heard and that your community and your neighborhoods get what you need. Thank you for the time.
All right, that was our final speaker. Thank you all so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate the time. I think, first of all, heard you loud and clear about the meetings. As one of our speakers mentioned, several of you mentioned about virtual hearings. My office was one of several that echoed the concerns of the community about the virtual hearing. So please do let people know if they weren't able to make it today. I think from our end, we try to provide a diversity of meeting options, mornings, evenings, virtual, weekends. So hopefully everyone has an opportunity to participate. If there's more, please also send us feedback to our office. We're just a phone call or an email away. I just want to flag a couple of things that I heard today. I think there are a lot of really exciting things in the budget, and I'm glad that folks are excited about that. I think employee compensation is one that will go a very long way to make sure that we can actually hire in departments that, you know, we have been touting, like our new crisis assistance program, where we will have mental health professionals responding and social workers to certain 911 calls. We know we have park rangers that we need to hire. We have police officers that we need to hire. So we're really excited about the compensation. But we also heard loud and clear from residents today that there are still parts of our community that are very much struggling, that need more of the basics, that need better lighting in parks, that need better playground equipment, that need free public transportation, something that I have been pushing for, and we had a pilot program during when we had funding from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan, but we know that we need more of this. Free public bathrooms is another one that our office has been pushing for since I came into the city council, and hope that we can get funded with your advocacy. We also know, I really appreciated the point of making sure that we don't think about the district in buckets or areas. You know, District 7 is very diverse. We have parts of Levine, Maryvale, Estrella, South Phoenix, and downtown. So it's a very, very diverse district, and certain parts absolutely need more attention than other parts of the district. I think is a great example of that, and we will definitely follow up with you. But please do continue to give your feedback. As was mentioned, this is a year-round process. In a lot of cases, when it comes to parks, I think is a great example. Our office has been working hand in hand with community members in the Estrella region, and now we're bringing over $1 million in improvements to Santa Maria Park, based on feedback that we got from young students in school. So this is not the only time, but this is a great time. So I really appreciate everyone for being here. I know the mornings are not ideal, and again, there is a virtual budget hearing this evening, and I hope those of you who'd like to participate will do so. Thank you so much.